You know, I have two kids under 2 right now, which is an exciting time and explains why my voice is a little rough, because they always get sick now. And so education to me, when I think about my kids will be going to the Fort Defiance Pyramid, and I think that's a critically important part of their role. I went to public education. I would certainly respect everyone that's homeschooling. It's just something that my wife and I have chosen, that we think that we'd probably rather put them in public education. We have some big challenges. If you think about not just this year, if you think about the next 10 years, Augusta County faces some big challenges in education. Across the state of Virginia, about 1/3 of the teachers could retire in the next 10 years. Our public universities don't have the capacity to build out those new teachers. So we have a shortage of teachers coming up in the near future. That's a major issue. In Augusta County, our birth rate is dropping. Our attendance at schools is dropping. So we're going to continue to lose money from the state and federal government. So every year, so for example, last year we lost about 50 students, depending how you cut it, but our school system had an additional $500,000. So we're going to see a continued decline. One of the things that I requested last year was a strategic plan to explain how we're going to improve education in Augusta County. Right, so you have this box on one side, you have money, and you have this other side, which I think most of us in this room want. We want better education in our schools, and then we have this black box in the middle. You know, at the beginning of this term, we asked our fire chief to give us a 5-year plan on what he's going to do to organize the county's fire and rescue. And there's some issues with it, and I think we weren't completely comfortable with certain parts of it, but he gave us a plan. We supported this plan, and we're moving forward with that plan. We're going to make adjustments and adaptations. And last year, I was promised a plan, and I've still yet to receive that plan. So right now, I'm being asked to fund a black box without explaining how the money is going to be used to fund better education. And that's an issue for me. I'm supposed to be accountable to the people. I'm supposed to support education. I have 22 years of education myself. I'm an educator. I've been teaching for 8 years. I've been teaching since I was 26, so 9 years now. And I want to support education. This is something that I believe in. This is something I've dedicated my life to. But I need a plan to support. And so I look at the things that we've done in the past. There's teachers who say that we're building too many buildings. And I agree with that. Last year, in the last couple of years, we spent $18 million to add on to Wilson. And we're going to close LAD, and so we spent $18 million to lose 20 seats in our school system. Not including LAD, we have about 2,600 empty seats in Augusta County. So I'd rather see the utilization of our capital so that we can focus on our teachers. We're talking about, Mr. Moore, you mentioned that we're close to a deal on adding a school administration building here. That's $3.5 million. That's $3.5 million that we're taking out of education to build buildings. We've talked about, there's been people talking about adding classroom space to Castle. Adding to Wilson Middle School. We have 400 empty seats at Stewart's Draft Middle School. We could redistrict. There's talking of selling the land to fund the administration building. We don't know exactly what that will bring in, but every dollar we take from there and don't spend it on our education, we're taking away from an educational institution. We could take LAD. I'm not necessarily for selling LAD. But if we sold LAD, we could reduce our debt, our capital debt, $2 million over the next 3 years or so. And we could shift that money to operations to pay for our teachers and pay for our education. So, we have a debt limit for capital at $7.2 million. It's been exceeded the last few years. And so one of the things I brought up a few months ago was we might consider lowering that debt limit and then focusing our money on actual education. At JMU, I see the same problems. We haven't had across-the-board raises in 5 years either, but we have beautiful new soccer fields. Right? And if you drive by them, they're usually empty. And so I see a lot of parallels in our current school system in JMU. So again, I'm asking this year, give me a plan, give me something I can believe in, so I can go to my 10,000 people that I represent and say, this is what I'm going to fight for. This is what I believe in, because I think this will increase education. And if there's an increase in price, and I can justify it, then I'm supportive of that. But I have yet to see that.
Things have changed so much over the last 20 years. But a lot of the arguments haven't. Every year we hear we need more support for education. Every year we talk about tax increases. Every year we say, no, we can't do it. So things haven't really changed. But the one thing that has changed is demands that are being placed on our county in every direction. And often Augusta County gets penalized because of how well we have managed over time. We didn't have a $4 car rate when the governor's car tax went into effect. And we don't have that big pile of money coming in that some of the other counties had. It was because we managed well. And then when you get in a situation like we had last year, where it takes $3 million just to fund VRS, because the state government took money from that fund to do other things and was paying a low interest rate while the stock market was coming back up. When we see a 16.7% increase in health insurance, and we haven't raised teachers' pay for so many years, we have given bonuses, but we haven't raised the pay, it's hard to ask our staff or the teachers, well, please pay for that increase because the locality can't afford it. It puts us in a real bind. I haven't made up my mind on what I'm going to do. I haven't seen the budget that the school board has presented. I haven't seen the budget that our county administrator will bring forward. So I will make no comment tonight on which way I will go. But I will tell you that I value our employees, I value our school system and what it does. And I really feel like that our school system does a good job. I was taken back by the ladies who talked about the quality of the education and trying to get support for it. The quality of Augusta County schools is great. Now, I do admire people who homeschool. But I find it interesting that several have mentioned to us tonight about sports and turn around in the same lobby group in Richmond asked to have homeschoolers brought into our sports program and our extracurricular activities. The other thing I look at that our school system does, and it costs a lot of money, and yes, we do get some federal money for it, but it's taking care of our special needs children. And believe me, folks, that takes money, that takes time, but it is well invested because the parents do not have the capabilities at home to do this. This is not a program we can cut. You know, some people say it's ridiculous to have one-on-one with some of these children. Spend time with an autistic child, a severely autistic child, and tell me that it's ridiculous to have one-on-one. I have a grandnephew that is extremely autistic. Probably will have trouble functioning later in life. He has to be one-on-one whenever he's at home. And yet, we are required by the federal government and by the state government to do as much as we can. And we should, as a society, do as much as we can to make that child as functional as possible. As I said before, I won't commit one way or the other. The only thing I will commit to is to protect our employees and to look at the budget and see if there's items that we can cut. But the one thing I will say to you again, having been on this board 20 years ago and come back and been on the school board for 8 years and come back to the board just last year, I do know that this system and this county has been run efficiently for many years. And sometimes when we get these increases like this, it's very hard to absorb.
Let me thank everyone for coming, and a lot of them have left. At this point, we do not have the county budget, we do not have the school budget. So to say what we will or will not do, you know, I don't want to go down that road. I also want to be one who says good things about Augusta County schools. They're not perfect, but they are good schools, and I've had kids in those schools that are good. The ones I worry about, and they're in the public schools, are the ones that have no support whatsoever at home. And I go back to what a teacher told me one time: how in the dickens am I going to teach a kid anything today when they don't even know where they're going to sleep tonight? That's what's wrong with a lot of kids in the public schools, and the public schools has to take them. But if you want an education in the public schools and you apply yourself, you will get a good education. And my grandkids are part of that results of that good school. And Dr. Bishop, I want to thank you for what you're doing. You have done a lot of good things in the last couple of years in Augusta County. Now, taxes. I'm on a fixed income. I understand there's no more to draw from. So what I've always said is, let's cut all the fat and not the muscle, and then we're going to fund the muscle and not the fat. Thank you.